Hey guys, it's Jessica here with Urban Garden, and I thought I would just do a quick video about some words we use with houseplants that a lot of people are confused about what they mean. So let's just get started. Upshift is a word that it's super common for people not to understand. And in the industry, we just use it all the time, and I think we don't even think about the fact that most people don't know what upshifting means. So to upshift a plant, whether it's a house plant or an annual container into a bigger pot, all it means is that. It just means taking something that has basically outgrown its container and putting it into a larger container. So this Dieffenbachia is very much in need of an upshift, not because it's looking particularly bad, it's more just because it looks very top heavy, which I think aesthetically never looks right for a plant. And it's gotten to that critical point of just a lot of roots. So once we hit about that 80%, 90% roots, just a bit of soil left on the top, it's time to upshift. So when we think about upshifting, it's taking it from a one size container and putting it into a slightly larger size container. So this is actually a pretty large upshift in my opinion, but it's the only container I had around at the moment. Rule of thumb is no more than twice as large in diameter and twice as deep. Okay, so that's as big of an upshift as you want to do. When you start getting into pot sizes of 12 inches and larger, your upshifts are not going to be twice as wide, twice as deep. It's usually going to be about 1.5 times as wide and 1.5 times as deep, so that you don't have too much soil with your houseplant. So specifically for houseplants, if you let a plant like this get upshifted into a large container, all the soil sitting around the container is not going to, it's going to hold water, and it's not going to have any roots to drink up that water. So what ends up happening is that water sits there and it ends up actually rotting the roots out, because the roots never get a chance to dry out in between waterings. So that's the next word I want to go over. So in between watering, that's something that I say a lot to people, and I do see a look of confusion, and I just want to explain what that means. So when you water something, you don't water it the absolute second it dries out. Just like with people, the second we're finished with our glass of water, we don't start drinking the next glass of water, right? So relate this back to people, relate this back to animals. Different plants require different amounts of watering, and yes, there's definitely exceptions like ferns that don't like to dry out, but for the majority, which is what we're talking about, for the majority of houseplants, they all want a period of dryness between watering. So when we say wait in between waterings and let them dry out, that's what we're talking about. So something like a Dieffenbachia, for example, philodendron, the rubber tree ficus, Ficus lyrata, alocasia, these are all plants that if they have continuous watering, they will have their rots roots. You'll notice that they'll get their leaves can just kind of get mushy at the bottom and fall off. That's a sign of overwatering. It's a sign of not letting the plant drink up what it needs, giving it a period of rest, and then watering again. So how long a period of time do you need in between? Well, that varies by the plant size and the variety. What I like to look for is tells on a lot of these plants as to when they need their next watering. So for any plant that has foliage that is fairly movable, such as this Dieffenbachia or a philodendron, it's going to show you that it needs water. So when the foliage really starts to droop is the only time that I water. There's not this other exception where I just water just to water because I feel like it. I'm always waiting for a tell before I water. There's no set schedule. Plants don't have schedules. They kind of are on their own, playing field there. Philodendron, they will certainly get wilty. They won't be nearly as just pronounced upright when they need watering. There also are plants that are harder to tell, like Ficus lyrata doesn't really do a lot of drooping. It can if it has really wispy foliage, or not foliage, wispy branches, but a lot of them won't even tell you if they need to get watering. So at that stage, I would move on to a moisture meter. And we've talked about moisture meters before. They are a godsend. If you don't have one and you have a lot of houseplants, I recommend getting one, especially if you're losing them and you don't understand why. Chances are you're overwatering. And that's the next question, or the next word we're going to be talking about. So there's in between watering and then there's overwatering. So overwatering means you are watering the plant too often. And that to me is why 99% of houseplants die. There's also quality issues and lighting issues can be a problem. But for the most part, people are overwatering their houseplants. They're over caring for their houseplants. So by using a moisture meter, you're going to know when it gets to a 4 or like 100% I'm wet. When it drops all the way down to a 1, you're going to give it a period of rest, and then you're going to let it go back up to a 4. Something that doesn't give you a tell, a period of rest might just be a day or two, but you want to make sure there is a time in which this plant isn't just absolutely surrounded by moisture at all times. So hopefully that helps with the word overwatering. Overwatering kills plants more often than underwatering. So another word that I hear a lot, or it's not a word I hear a lot, but a question people ask me a lot is, what light requirements do my houseplant need? None of these plants were raised in direct sun, meaning none of these plants were grown outside for any length of time. They're all grown inside greenhouses, so they're used to a greenhouse environment with filtered light. So filtered light is more of a natural light. It's a light that you'd find in your home with eastern, southern, or western exposure. And that's usually pretty appropriate for all these plants. Understand that there can be adjustments for plants, but when I say bright light, if all the lights in your room are off and you could still read a book comfortably, that's bright light, okay? If it starts to get a little difficult for you to read, then that's starting to get to lower light. But if you could comfortably read a book in there, and it's like that for around 4 hours a day, that's enough light for most houseplants. There's always exceptions to the rule. So succulents and cacti, they will require more light and lower water. However, I do have all of my succulents in an east-facing window, which a lot of people consider morning light not as strong as afternoon, and they all do really, really well. They don't stretch searching for light. They stay nice and compact. I only water those very sparingly because it isn't the brightest light, but it's still acceptable light. So when we give the advice that these plants can go in lots of different locations in your house, we aren't just saying it to sell the plant, we're saying it because we've had experience with them doing really well in a lot of different locations. There's common problems with houseplants that we talk about, and we use certain terms as far as how to take care of them. So fertilizer, even though it may be really a commonplace word, for us in the industry, we've realized that that doesn't necessarily mean everyone understands what fertilizer is. So fertilizer is just plant food. So fertilizer does not have to mean it's synthetic. It does not have to mean it's bad for the environment. It simply means plant food. We love Age Old Grow. This is one of the oldest fertilizer companies in the United States. This is a concentrated amount. It's a tablespoon or a teaspoon or a tablespoon, either or, per gallon. I just honestly splash a little in to my pitcher and I water in my plants with this about once every 2 to 3 waterings. And you can back off of fertilizer in the winter because during those months these plants will sit pretty dormant. You won't notice as much growth. So fertilizer just means plant food. So in general, I like organic because organic doesn't burn plants. Synthetic does. So keep that in mind. You know, if you have bug problems like mites or mealybug or aphid, the best product on the market, hands down, is a newer product. It was developed in 1997, and it is an organic product called Spinosad. This product has a residual of up to 20 days, where BT only has a residual of 2 to 3. It's very similar to BT, but it's more broad spectrum. BT was originally made, which is Bacillus thuringiensis. It was originally just for basically really soft-bodied caterpillars. This product can go a lot further. And on this label, for instance, leaf miners, spider mites, bagworms, coating moth, tent caterpillars, works on mealybug. It works on spider mites exceptionally well. And that is something that we all know houseplants have a really hard time with. This year, what I saw the worst was mites, and that's because we had 20 plus days of 90-degree weather, so those mites were able to hatch. And a lot of years we don't get that, and the mites aren't as bad. But mites kind of come with houseplants a lot of times. I mean, the reality is that these plants have been flown in from around the world, and the growing conditions can vary quite a bit. So at Urban Garden, we do treat all of our plants with Spinosad, which is safe for humans, for pets, and it's safe for plants, and it's safe for indoor use. So we really love this product, and we use it as a preventative here. So if anything comes in with any mite issues, any kind of damage, we use Spinosad. And let me just, I might as well, even though this isn't really word related, I might as well just give you an example of how to use Spinosad. So alocasia specifically, people have a hard time with this plant, and I'll tell you why. One, they overwater. It actually really likes to dry out. It likes brighter light than people think, and it almost always comes in with mites. So if you buy a plant like this from a nursery that does not spray anything on these plants, mite damage is kind of inevitable. So all you want to do with Spinosad, and this is a new bottle, shake it, spray, and spray the undersides. Okay, it's to the point of dripping. That's a proper spray, okay, but specifically getting the underside. So I'm not afraid to get it on my hands. It smells like it's fermented beer because it's a fermented product, so don't be alarmed if the smell is very mild. Most people can't even smell it, but if you do, it's not toxic. So this is kind of my last word for the day. People ask us all the time if like Dawn soap will work on their houseplants. I'm sure there's something backing that up for sure, but it's the specific fatty acids that are found in insecticidal soap that actually kill on contact soft-shelled bugs. The only thing I don't like about insecticidal soap is it only kills what you can see. So if there's no residual. So if the bug is coming along and it's munching that leaf later, if it wasn't hit by this in the moment, you didn't do it any good. And so a lot of people say this product doesn't work. Well, it's not that it doesn't work, it's just a very safe product, and you have to use it daily, and you have to use it when you see the bugs. So it's not quite as much of a miracle cure as Captain Jack Spinosad. This is just honestly a new product that I've fallen in love with, and I can't say enough good things about it. So that's it, guys. I kind of covered a lot, and this is one of my first longer videos. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. Give me an idea of what you'd like me to do a video about next. Hopefully this helps you out in the future when you go to a garden center and you don't understand all the verbiage. Maybe this gives you a better idea of what it means. Until next time, have a great day, guys.